Very metal intro for Serral there.
Yeah, you know, the Finnish metal coming out a little bit. And definitely something I think he's got to be mentally prepared to play against a lot of metal units coming out of TY, because mech has been the flavor of the month. It's been very common. And the big favor against it is Mutalisks, right? Getting on top of it and kind of finding a way in with Ling run-bys, Muta run-bys. And it's not so much usually a big all-in attack, though we have seen some games finish with that. But we've seen a lot of like just, hey, I'm keeping you busy. There's Lings running in here, Lings running in there, Muta's running around. And it kind of feels like not that much damage is happening. But then the Zerg has 90 workers and the whole map's covered in creep. And suddenly it's you know, all control for the Zerg from there. So if we see it go down that path, definitely something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, so one thing I actually did want to bring up again, because I did mention, you know, TY not that long ago had to play in his GSL group and everything, and the way that he approached each of those matches, I was saying like Scarlet versus Dark, very different styles. Versus Scarlet and pretty much all the games that he played, just going for the 2-1-1 opening, which is definitely a more old school style, but versus Dark, really mixing it up. The one thing that we didn't really end up seeing though was heavy mech coming out from him. He did like a 2-factory Blue Flame Hellion opening that went into bio. He did a Proxy Rax opening. He did just like a 1-1-1 opening with like Banshees and stuff. But I do want to see and find out during the series if he feels like mech is one of those things he wants to mix in versus Serral.
I'll have to wait and see. That Reaper coming on in. Looking to get a bit of the Reaper tax out. Serral, of course, just rotating those weaker Zerglings to the back, just buying time for that Queen to pop out, which will, of course, shoo the Reaper away. Drone is already hanging out at the third base, drops the hatchery in the midst of this. So Serral gets the creep spread started, gets the third base up, Ling speed on the way, and it looks like it's going to be an Overlord speed opening from Serral, as he's still got 2 workers on gas. So he wants to get a lot of scouting, but hey, TY already looking to get an early Overlord snipe. Lovely maneuver here from TY.
Yeah, really aggressive positioning for these Marines, and there's going to be the Overlord going down before it can make it itself up to the high ground. Reaper also going to be able to control the map, and while the third base is safely planted before any creep sword really gets over there, the Reaper isn't able to deny that, and there is going to be the second factory. Okay, so Pig, this could be leading into like a really fast mech play, but this looks a lot like that Blue Flame Hellion thing I was talking about, where you see 3 Hellions coming out at a time. The tech lab is being built next to the factory to get a fast Blue Flame research, and you do insane amounts of big Hellion aggression, but following it up with a bunch of barracks for bio behind this.
Yeah, and I think that Overlord snipe's an important part of setting up for this build. Look, the 2 Marines are even looking for another Overlord in the middle of the map. They will catch it, but Overlord speed is done. Now, Overlord speed is going to be fantastic against this. If Serral can just get into Roach's Roach speed, he can shut this down and drone up, but already losing an Overlord, investing in Overlord speed, these are things are not free, so Serral's got to lock things down.
Yeah, thankfully for Serral, though, this is Golden Wall. It is almost impossible to push back the Overlords coming in from the south side of the map because there's just mineral paths blocking the Marines from moving out in that direction. Now, this Overlord will be able to get around and away for a little bit, but this should have been now scouted out fully over here by Serral. And if Serral's done any sort of research with that GSL group, he'll definitely know what's coming out, and I love this. Already getting the full wall off here.
Yeah, taking no risks at all. Defending the third mineral line is going to be kind of tough, though, as that is out in the open. And we can see those Hellions rotating. They want to get in there. A quick evac from Serral. Nice play.
Oh, a few of the drones did not manage to make their way all the way back to the natural just yet. He's actually being very aggressive with his mining over here, where even as the Hellions are starting to dance around that mineral line, he says, no, you know what? I got the Queens here. I have my drones in the right position. I should be fine. And look at this. These Hellions going to get denied moving into the third, or sorry, the natural.
Oh, those Lings not quite getting the wraparound they would have wanted. Maybe could have locked in one more Hellion, but good defense nonetheless for Serral. And you've kind of got to be aggressive with that mining, Fear Dragon, I think. With that third CC already being landed on the third, and Stim already halfway done, extra barracks coming down. I mean, TY is going to have a very impressive push to follow this up. And, ooh, these Hellions still looking for more damage. It's so hard to completely shut this down. These 4 Hellions so deadly.
Ooh. Yeah, already getting 8 drone kills over there, softening up a lot of the rest of them, but it's worth noting that there's only 4 Hellions left on the map. He's not really looking to make a whole lot more. And those Hellions are actually kind of important for him, right? To make sure he can actually secure that gold base until the rest of his production kicks in.
Indeed, it's going to be swapping into the upgrades, of course, the bio tank production beginning. Having the 2 factories can actually be incredible just for either boosting up your tank production later or swapping into Widow Mines if you're up against Zergling Baneling. And already using that factory to kind of build reactors for the extra buildings. TY is just really focused on his infrastructure right now. And I mean, look at the work account. This is definitely, I think, speaking to Serral's intentions in the near future, Ravi.
Yep. Queens are already starting to make their little journey across the map. We have drop overlords being made to try and pick those queens up and get them across the map a little bit faster. TY is now going to see the roaches barreling down to the front door. The Sea Shank set up in a decent position far enough back that it won't immediately get jumped on, but that is going to be a very important Sea Shank for this defense.
Yep, already takes out one of the Ravagers, and that's crucial. Remember, it's 3 Ravager bios to take out the tank. Ling drop heading towards the main base. Other Zerglings here ready, as well as the Queen drop. The Queens want to go in front and tank if possible. The Roaches actually go in front here for Serral, and they do take a few big hits. But now that the Queens land, the bios are going to go down, trying to take down this bunker. These Queens tanking a lot here, but that repair is very good on the bunker so far. The Siege tanks are dishing out so much hurt. A perfect hold for TY.
Really, really well handled there by TY. There's a few I was a little bit surprised to see the corrosive biles go down on the bunker as opposed to the Siege Shank. But I mean, the bunker, of course, going to be still a very important part of that. Really committed attack there from Serral, though.
Well, I mean, I think he kind of sensed there might be a weakness in the follow-up, but that tank production was just so steady and fast for TY. He swapped out of the Hellion production nice and early. And I mean, Serral has been favoring these sorts of pushes so much in his series, right? We're getting to the point where Serral, he even talked about it after facing Raynor, where he's like, I'm sick of players just kind of taking risks against me. He's like, I've been doing so many all-ins, Niduses, Roach attacks, all sorts of crazy things. I didn't think Raynor would play Mutas versus me in that European finals, and yet he did. So I think Serral, he's trying to put the fear into people by making sure he mixes these attacks in regularly, but perhaps just a little too predictable there. It felt like TY was rock solid against it and just locked things down to those tanks on the high ground.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've seen from a lot of players is that when they go from that very standard macro style to I'm going to try and mix in a lot more of these cheeses and everything. I feel like Neeb also went through this kind of metamorphosis, and we see that a lot of those players, they actually don't have the greatest results immediately. It takes some time for it to kick in, for them to really find a lot of value and get other players to start not playing so greedy and sort of respect them for that. But there's that in-between period where you're like, ooh, you know, kind of running my head in against hard walls sometimes. It's not going so well.
Yeah, I think it's something you've got to kind of just adapt and adjust for and realize that, you know, taking risks is exactly that. It's taking risks. It's not always going to work out for you, but nonetheless, a very lovely start to the series for this player. Up here in the top right-hand side, already with a 1-0 lead, he is the reigning GSL champion. It's TY.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, a man you cannot count out in this series. He is the Red Zerg player, ENCE Esports' Serral.
And of course, going into Everdream, Serral worried about proxy barracks. They've featured heavily in the meta. Is going to send a drone out hunting for that, making sure. And of course, as we can see, TY not going for that build order, but good to see that the Finnish player is going to be safe. Going to try and just make sure he's not surprised by anything.
Yeah, just showing a lot of respect for what TY could throw out there. And honestly, I would be surprised if we get to like a game 4 or game 5 and we haven't seen a proxy racks during this series. That would be actually a little bit unexpected for me, Pig, at least. Just with how often.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think it might make sense though, right? To not do it at all in a series, specifically against someone like Serral, who, yeah, he can still throw out a build like that last game, but for the most part, he is still so defensively oriented and so supremely safe. You know, Serral's one of the players that I very rarely see fall to a proxy racks or a 12 pool. That seems to be one of his strengths, is those really quick rushes. He is one of the best in the world at holding.
All right, well, we do see Command Center coming down the low ground. Reaper's going to be popping on out. So TY is playing a pretty normal looking opening thus far. We'll see where things kind of shape out later on. That last game, I mean, from TY, it's definitely more of a one-off kind of build, right? That Hellion style and everything. Even though Serral did get Overlord Speed Scout and everything, and he tried to react to it, it's not really something you want to be doing a lot of the games in a row, right?
No, definitely not. I think especially the early Overlord snipe, you only really get that once against Serral. He's going to adjust and make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And it was a crucial part. It slowed down Serral's early economic explosion because he was already investing in a quick Overlord speed. And this was a very kind of ultra safe opening. And any little bit of damage you take, the first 2 drones that went down on the third, the next 8 drones that went down to the Hellions on the third, it doesn't look like a lot, but you've got to remember that Serral, he's not kind of like in a laser who's going to power out like a crazy number of workers and kind of accept that he's going to lose drones. Serral playing the sort of build in the last game, he's looking to take almost 0 damage. He wants to be kind of always having enough queens, enough scouting, gets the lings out, then the roaches, he has the spine crawler. Serral's a player who never wants to let his opponent get momentum. So rather than saying, hey, I'm accepting that I'll lose a few drones, he's like, no, I've got enough units out there. I want to shut this down completely. So even a handful of workers, I think it's a lot more damage to Serral than it is to some other Zerg players.
Yeah, nice pickoff over there, by the way, on the Reaper, just a little bit before Zergling speed finishes. So it's not the end of the world. That Reaper was not necessarily going to be able to stay on the map for too much longer. But definitely nice to be able to shut that down a little bit earlier on and get that mining up at your third base maybe a little bit faster. But, oh, man, that Overlord position way far in the back is going to have a nice, easy time making its way into the main to get some good scouting information on this Banshee opening.
Yeah, it's a very quick third CC on 1 gas. So once again, 2 games in a row, in exceptionally quick third command center. TY has decided this is the way to play this series against Serral. He says, I'm going to jump up in that economy and really power it out. And I'm expecting to see fire, as you'd pointed out as well, where it's definitely looking like something he's going to be focused on. Still no second gas up in the main. Of course, it is down in the natural. But Serral not going Overlord speed this game. No early losses for him. His work account is exploding, and he's going to look to saturate that third base very quickly.
Yeah. Now, Serral's Overlord did die after seeing that Cloak did start on up, so that's kind of a nice spot there for Serral. I was almost wondering if TY was going to think about canceling it, but he's going to let it keep going as he uses his Hellions to try and control a little bit of the map. It's actually pulling back all of his Hellions, so that crease turret is going to get out a little bit further, and man, I got to say, when the Zerg player starts getting that crease turret out far enough, it just becomes so difficult for the Terran player to put that pressure on later, right?
Yeah, and looking at where the creep is, I'm kind of wondering, is Serral actually going to go for this 4th down the bottom? A lot of players have been expanding to this top of the map. The reason I'm not always the biggest fan is that Terrans opt for this 3rd, and it's a very quick, short push distance over to that 4th base. So yeah, I actually prefer what Serral's doing down here. Now, a lot of players, I think, disagree with that. They say the high ground cliff to the right of that 4th base is too dangerous. The siege tanks there are just incredibly powerful. But I actually really like this because you can kind of spread to both sides. And then even if the game gets scrappy, you can always give up one side of the map and re-expand to the other side.
Well, Lings are not going to be able to knock down those rocks anytime soon because the Banshees are doing quite a bit of damage to not just the Lings, but now they're going to be able to start doing some good damage to that 4th base that was coming on up. The Queens are out in decent numbers, but remember, Cloak finished up, and Serral doesn't quite have his lair, so without a Spore Crawler, can't really push these Banshees back. The main base, going to be able to push back the Banshees a little bit, but not before they snag a couple of drone kills.
There's a lot of Zerglings on the map right now, Fear Dragon, and I am wondering if Serral's thinking about doing some sort of big attack on the 3rd base. There's a lot of Marines and Hellions out, so it could just be preemptive defense, but I do think it's perhaps an overbuild of Zerglings here from Serral. He is redroning, he's still got a good economy. His Baneling speed has started up at a very nice timing. So I think he's kind of looking to just have an abundance of units. When push comes to shove, if there's something like a 2-tank push or a double medevac pressure, Serral wants to jump on it, destroy it, and then just have uninterrupted map control and creep spread. Now, that's a brilliant maneuver against a player who overcommits with early tanks. But that, instead from TY, is the fastest 4th command center you're ever going to see in this matchup. I feel like he's
Wow.
predicting that Serral's going to play a bit unit heavy here, and he's just saying, no, I'm just going to pressure lightly, and I'm actually going to take this to the late game. TY with a monstrous economy.
Well, a couple of Hellions going to spot some of these Zerglings make their way on the right-hand side. Managed to roast and toast a few of them, but like you said, yeah, this is going to be such a good macro long-term play here from TY. And the Overseer does come on in. I believe that that 4th command center is being built kind of at the front, so it hasn't just yet been spotted. But I think that the Overseer, no, it's going to sit up in the top right-hand corner. So not really going to get vision of this. And he's just going to see light pressure coming out from TY. Nothing hyper aggressive, no big push coming in his front door.
Yeah, we are seeing Serral just kind of mix in a handful of drones here and there. Just a few drones here, a few drones there. But this is something where I think he's going to be wanting a bit more economy a few minutes from now. TY's supply continues to grow. He's going to start looking for small amounts of damage with a double drop in the main. Banshees on the top, Hellions on the right-hand side. Serral will be quick to respond, but these is all just TY looking for little efficient trades. This is not him overcommitting at all.
Yeah, the Marines are going to be able to snag a couple of Ling kills over here. A few of them do go down, but they at least trade out versus a few of those units. For Serral takes out 2 of the Banelings in exchange for some of the Hellions. And these are, like you said, just little trades. And we're seeing that Serral is now having to just replenish all of those Lings. He's remaking, actually, looks like he actually started up another spawning pool in fear that he might lose his first one. That's all these small little annoyances that are allowing TY just take his side of the map very, very safely.
And this is all slowing down the creep spread. It's making sure the creep spread, it's still good, but it's not dominant. You know, that's one of the things you can easily let the Zerg do if you're playing this defensive. Cancel on the spawning pool, realizing he will not need a second spawning pool most likely. TY says, hey, I've got 4 drops coming towards your main. You sure about that, buddy?
Yeah, it looks like we got another drop making its way along the top side of the map, just evading the creep for now. These 4 medevacs start unloading, but man, Serral is very much so in position, so still kind of responds with a nice little swat down of that harassment. This drop has now been spotted by the creep. It's going to make its way over to the high yield gas mineral line. One might actually up on the high ground trying to get the hydras or something at that point, but not able to make a whole lot happen. And I love just that more Zerg player or more Terran players have been adding in drilling claws as the game goes on.
I mean, I wonder if TY does feel some urgency to start frontal pushing in the next minute or so. Right now, I mean, his 2-2 being forgotten, actually. Oh my, I didn't even realize that. 2-2 just finished for Serral. +2 attack only just started for TY. He's going up to a 6th command center. He needs those upgrades. That is a crucial mistake from TY.
Yeah, this is also just gets really, really awkward soon, right, Pig? Where if you just are going up to 5th, 6th command center, you're not actually making the big push out or anything, and you're going to be down in upgrades. Serral's maxed out. At some point, he's going to start thinking, well, I want to trail out my supply somehow, so I have to force an engagement. If he's going to do that anytime soon, which it looks like he's about to, he's going to have that upgrade advantage for this fight.
Yeah, 2-2 here, looking fantastic. Hydraling Bane coming in on 2 fronts right now. The Widowmine's looking for some big hits. Will they be able to land? You can notice there, Serral manually detonating a few Lings and Banes to take out those Widowmines up front. No big Widowmines hitting just yet. It's pure bio getting absolutely swamped by the Zergling Baneling Hydra.
The Lings are demolishing the Marines, and there is going to be the GG. Serral taking the second game, tying up that series 1-1.
That was a weird one. TY there just going, yeah, let's take 7 command centers. Let's go to the mega late game. Let's play a slow, efficient style. And I really had my eyes glued. I wish that game went for another 2 minutes because I wanted to see what is TY's plan. How do you plan to win this game? Is it just play biomine and just have more units and be efficient over time? Because it's a very efficient style. Or was there some flavor to it? Was he going to mass nuke? Were we going to see ghosts and liberators coming out in large numbers? Is there a late game battle cruiser swaps planned once you have enough economy? The problem that TY found himself in was he kind of just had Marines and Marauders. His Marauder count wasn't that high. There was no tanks anchoring the style. We just didn't really see all the pieces come together. So I'm a little bit upset because as a Terran fan, thinking about this weird way of addressing Zerg, I'm like, what comes next? How do you close that game out? I feel like there's some unanswered questions here.
Yeah, it almost felt like, you know, TY, you were talking about the really fast, like, 4th command center and everything. It felt like he was getting away with the greed. And then he said, well, can I push it a little bit further? Can I just keep pushing it? Serral finally is just like maxed out and is like, well, actually, no, I have a really big army. you've used all your Widow Mines on these drop harassments and everything and lost all of them. So you don't have tanks, but you also don't have any Widow Mines really anchoring your defense anymore. Like, you keep loading up 5 medevacs at a time and going for these big drops, and then I keep ambushing them or like catching them. Yeah, you don't actually have enough to do this anymore. So I'm totally with you. I don't know if, like, it's like you said before with game number 1 of like, do you really get the edge in on Serral, like getting the Overlord snipe off and everything? Like, does Serral really let you get away with the same kind of stuff lots of times or multiple times even? I feel like he's going to be adjusting.
Yeah, it's no easy match when you're up against this man here. And as we said, he's a little bit annoyed that he didn't win the European side of things, but he's ready here in the season finals, the really big event, to make up for that. In the top right-hand side, in the red, it is the Finnish phenom, Serral.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Terran player. He is TY.
And this was I really felt like I was seeing echoes of his match against Dongregu, from GSL there, from TY, where there were points in the late game where he was doing things like 4 factory siege tank swap ups and was about to kind of go into these really interesting, mega economic late game scenarios where TY, unlike most Terrans, plays for the efficiency in the late game. You know, he says, I'm going to get a giant economy. I'm going to do lots of little tactical harass siege up areas. And he often just found himself overrun with not enough units in the right position and getting caught out just before he had that technical switch up where, it was like, hey, I've got bio, but it's just so many banelings and there's no tanks or Widow Mines anchoring it right here. So I kind of have to spend my time running away and spreading rather than fighting. And that can sometimes lead to some poor results where, a Terran army is always a glass cannon. Sometimes people get confused when they look at these engagements because they go, sometimes that works well for the Terran and sometimes their army falls apart. Well, I mean, the fact is you've got the longest ranged, highest damage units in the game. They happen to also come with a weakness. It's called very low hit points. So if you're not set up correctly, they get absolutely rolled. And that's what happened in that last game.
No, I think that's a really great way of putting it. And it's kind of the danger that you play with when you get to play Terran is that if your units manage to survive an extra 1/5 of a second, they can actually demolish an extra, 4 or 5 more banelings or something. They don't connect, and you actually end up winning the engagement. But that narrow little window can make the difference between the banelings or the lings managing to get in on top of your army and just killing everything, or you actually handily winning the engagement. It definitely is a tightrope walk to try and manage.
Yeah, it's also something, if you're not quite ready for those fights, TY does make one mistake, which you very rarely see from like a Maru. And that is sometimes he actually runs back when I think he should stand his ground. And this is something which is, it's so easy to be a sideline commentator on this and criticizer, right? It's one of the most impressive things with the best Terrans is their ability to look at 50 banelings rolling down on them and just stand their ground with their Marines and Marauders and say, no, this is actually a fight I can take. And because they kind of gun down the front units, the Widow Mine shots don't shoot on single Zerglings or Banelings. They end up naturally finding the center of the Banelings, right? And you end up gunning down a lot of these units before they connect. But whenever you're using Bio Mine, if your Bio runs backwards from the mines suddenly say, hey, we're just going to shoot the first thing that comes our way. And if you ever look at a Zerg advance, that always happens to be just a few Zerglings on their own out front. Widow Mine shots on those are worth next to nothing. So you kind of need the Bio shooting down the front-running Zerg units to allow the Widow Mines to get the big connection. So any moment you're kind of unprepared for the fight and your Bio has to just run away, your Widow Mines immediately become ineffective.
Yeah, I feel like that series that we saw versus a Rainer and Innovation on that game on Golden Wall is a great example of the Terran player doing it really, really well. But we do actually have the opening over here. Once again, decided this is going to be a repeat of game number 1, the Blue Flame 3 Hellions at a time opening. Serral's going to go. I actually really, I think that this map, it might be a lot easier to deal with, right? Because you can just, it's not like you're cut off between the natural and the third and you're darting between the two. This game, you can actually just wall off one side and then you only have to worry about one opening at the third.
I'm a little worried. I think the creep tumors are blocking it. I was going to say, I really want to see him take those tumors out and just wall it off with an Evo chain, but there we go. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Fear Dragon. I think, honestly, you've got that third base. It's one angle. Anytime the Hellions poke in, they're taking a lot of hit from the Queens, and they're going to try to go for it nonetheless. Ambitious moves from TY, but look at that pullback from Serral. Lets the Queens tank a shot. So you can see what TY was trying to do there. He wanted, as the Zerglings to clump up, to focus them. But right at that moment where his Hellions would turn to fire, Serral disengaged and said, nah, fight the Queens, buddy. And only when TY came forward, the Lings were just there to stop them diving. Taking out 2 Hellions this early really does take the wind out of the sails here for TY.
Yeah, and this is something that you do really want to get something done with, right? You're making an extra factory much earlier on. That's going to delay your starport. It's going to delay a lot of your other tech and movement into the later stages of a normal TVZ. So if TY doesn't get anything done with this, not even really forcing that big of a reaction from Serral, it's going to be tough, but Blue Flame is done. He's managed to make his way past some of the Queens, but it doesn't seem like he really wants to suicide his Hellions in right now.
I love that standoff. Players have taken that to such a level, right? Where you can see the Zerglings are waiting and the Hellions are trying to kind of bait the Zerglings into jumping on them too early so they can set up that shot, right? Whenever you see Serral spread those Lings out, he's saying, hey, your splash damage isn't going to work on me. But if TY can just bait them forward a little bit, the Zerglings will naturally clump up and he can land the shot. But Serral does not bite the bait, and now he's up on 70 workers. He's got his double upgrade started, his Baneling Nest. He's got a couple of Roaches, which can always be turned into Ravagers for taking down those siege tanks. And we're going to see a big macro game on Eternal Empire, but a nice advantage to start for Serral.
Yeah, and you can already see he is able to get up to that 79, almost 80 plus worker count really, really nice and early on and very safely at this point. Because, I mean, if you take a look at what TY has, no medevacs are out just yet. We don't have that many Marines even out on the map. There's really not a whole lot that TY can do for a bit until his production really gets kicked off.
Yeah, his +1 armor upgrade's a little bit behind his attack as well, so that is definitely something that will slow him down. Ooh, we got a Baneling drop preparing on the left-hand side, one of my favorites. Good to see that sort of pressure mixed in, and it's a way of kind of ensuring you're going to get in there and at the very least cause a reaction and some pooled SCVs, and you got so much economy. I mean, Serral has done a fantastic job this game of realizing, hey, I shut this opening down, I've got momentum, I'm ahead. Going straight to 83 workers, straight up to the Spire. Muta's so good for controlling on this map. TY is behind, and it's going to be very hard for him to catch up. He doesn't even spot the Spire with the scan. That is very unfortunate for TY.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a not-so-fun realization later on. Now, okay, Overlord does get snuffed off. It's not the drop Overlord with the 4 Banelings, which I think is just a little bit further up north over here. Still going to be opportunity for that to run on in. We do start to see TY trying to claim a little bit of the map in the center. He's darting around by that Zelnaga watchtower, scouting around for Lings or Overlords that might be around. Is he going to actually start pushing on a bit further? The mutas are about to pop, so remember, if TY ends up overcommitting, those mutas might be able to at least start sniping off the medevacs as well. It's not going to be the easy escape as it always is versus just pure Ling Bane.
These Marines coming in, you know, they'd love to try to just do a little bit of a tradie, but the Zergling takes that hit. Nice calm. And it looks like it might be going into Hydras behind this, and these mutas going to come in completely unannounced. The Marines have just moved out as they hit the mineral line. A lovely maneuver here from Serral.
Yeah, already sniping off 4 workers, not really taking a whole lot of damage on these mutas. Can dive into the main base. Is going to be able to find a missile turret as well. Darting up to the north side with the rest of the army, going to deny the medevacs from moving on in. It might not seem like Serral's doing a ton of damage just yet with these mutas, but I mean, this is keeping TY very pinned back while Serral's pushing back any attempts that TY tries to throw out to drop. I mean, this is going great for Serral right now.
He's completely forgotten about his Baneling drop on the left-hand side, by the way. Thankfully, TY
No,
flies over it. You know, he'll eventually at least force a reaction there. So this is the sort of situation, I think, if TY recognizes correctly where he is in the game, and I think he has done just that, the scary thing that you're normally going to face in this sort of game is the Zergling now making 76 extra Banelings to go up to 120, and then rolling them in and just killing all your stuff. So that's kind of what happens from here when the Zergs had this much freedom in the game. And you can see TY adopting a very defensive stance. What I'd love to see TY add is a wall off on his natural. I do think that's going to be a very dangerous run-by path as this game goes on. Whilst he's got army there right now, looks good. The moment he gets pulled down to the right, a Ling rally could get into his natural and he could be in big trouble.
Oh, I absolutely agree, Pig. I mean, if you look at just the way that TY has to defend all the different attack angles, I mean, there's 4 or 5 different ways that Serral could run in with things, or I mean, even just the mutas now. So the mutas are going ham in the main base, drawing a lot of Marines over there, sniping out supply depots, while TY tries to make the big push forward, but he's moving on to creep right now. There's a single forward to try and anchor this attack a bit. And yes, this will actually end up getting a bit of a cleanup on the Zerg army, but there's so little left. I don't think he can really break forward anymore.
No, I mean, one really fantastic Widowmine hit took out about 15 Banelings, and that will happen once in a while, but the mutas come in, good evac there by TY. I mean, TY saves the technicality of his army, and that's the important thing. I would love to see a few more Marauders mixed in. We are now seeing triple Marauder production from TY. I think that is what is really going to take his army to the next level. His upgrades are behind Serral. Serral's hive is almost finished. Serral's still pulling him around. So TY is going to need to be very efficient in these next engagements, and he's got a fantastic Marine count. He's got a good Mine count. A few more Marauders mixed in to kind of slow down the advance with their concussive shells to absorb some Baneling hits. I think that'll really add what TY needs to just kind of take a few amazing fights. Oh no.
Well, the Banelings are going to be able to absolutely annihilate and delete that planetary fortress. Now the mutas come on in because there's no real Marines over here to support the tanks. At the same time, TY is moving again onto creep. The creep threat is not really receded either, so these speed Banelings able to get some okay connections there. He hasn't been able to push TY back entirely, but I mean, if Serral can push back TY, his spot just gets solidified as a game that will be up to him to make mistakes to lose.
Big army, though. It's a big Terran army. The spreads are nice. Those Marauders, Thors, Marines holding on well. A fantastic fight there for TY. Is it enough, though? There is going to be the big round of remax here for Serral. He's got a lot more Banelings there. If Serral can get rid of these Medivacs and Thors, it's going to be amazing for the Finnish player. One Thor goes down, and I think he's got enough. These Medivacs have got to get out of dodge. TY, this was such a desperate push, obviously losing the 4th base, but I think now he's exposed. A bunch of the Medivacs are going to fall. All those Thors go down. He just does not quite have the reinforce. Serral, overwhelming.
Down to 7 Marines and 4 Marauders, Pig. TY is getting pushed further and further back. There's still plenty of Banelings left over. And Serral is looking to be in a great spot this game. Remember, he killed the planetary fortress. TY is almost in an all-in position here, and he's floated over his main orbital command center over to this location. It's going to be even harder to defend now.
Yep, he is currently going to have to go into turtle mode, I believe, and with 3-3 started for Serral, no 3-3 on the way for TY. +2 flyer attacks and more mutas coming in. Interestingly enough, Serral here just saying, you know what, mass muta Ling Bane. I've got control. I've got a giant economy. I think this is a fantastic choice to do this. This is not the most efficient composition, but it is the most controlling composition. And this is going to allow him to just shut down drops, do his own harassment and run-bys, and really drown TY in this 90 drone Zerg swarm.
Yeah, as the Ultra Cavern starts coming up, the mutas are still going to find a lot of value and just picking away at some of the SCVs, mining from one of the few remaining mining bases over here. It's going after one of the engineering bases. Unfortunately, it's not the one that's researching, but it's only +3 weapons on the way. +3 armor is just now getting started
the
up.
Baneling run by in the bottom. It looks like the economy of TY is so exposed, and these Banelings and Zerglings are going to find it. A lot of SCVs going down. Zerglings hit the 3rd base at the same time, and already a bruised economy becomes mortally wounded. Just 32 SCVs remaining for TY.
It's going to be a lot lower pretty soon over here, Pig. The mutas come back into the natural. At this point, you just got to pull everything and go, right? There's no way you can economically recover. If you wait even a little bit longer, that bank for Serral gets even bigger.
Well, you can always hope the Zerg headbutts into you, but I think TY shares your view. It's just so much stuff, and he's trying to take a fight on both sides, but the Baneling count is just astronomical, and that's too much. Serral there taking that game out. Well played by Serral. Good control early, but I do think potentially not the best build choice for that map from TY. As you called Fear Dragon, the wall off on the natural, instrumental in shutting down the Blue Flame harass.
Yeah, playing from behind for a lot of that game. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a short break and give TY a bit of time to think about what he wants to do in game number 4. We'll be back in just a little bit.
we are back here. It is the middle of an action-packed series, a bit of a seesaw series with some interesting build choices going on, and nothing less than we would expect when we've got, of course, two big names in Serral versus TY. Right now, Serral is leading the series 2-1.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, we did get to see a repeat of the Hellion opening there in that last game from TY. Didn't work out quite as well this time on that particular map, but we are heading on to Pillars of Gold. And I feel like this has got to be where TY starts mixing things up a little bit more again, right? You don't go back to the Hellion build after that just happened, even though I think this would be a better map for it.
Yeah, like I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, actually, maybe, you know, there is a funny mind game going on. Are you going to overlord speed? Are you not? You know, how much scouting is going on from both sides, and it's really leading to a lot of momentum one way or the other. But let's go into this match, of course. Down here in the bottom left-hand side, currently just one game away from closing out this series and securing his spot in the semifinals. It is Serral.
And up here in the top right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Terran player who's going to be looking for a way to come back in this series, win 2 games in a row. It is TY. Pig, I have a question for you. And this is just, again, going back to like build order openings and choices that could come out from TY. As we do see another drone really just adamantly scouting for the proxies again. I was going to ask you, how do you feel about the 2-1-1 these days?
That's an interesting one. I'm not fully decided. We're seeing it come back in a big way. Obviously, you know, we've loved watching Joe Future use it a lot in the NA tournament as well. I think the 2-1-1 is a build order which can be very effective. I think it's especially good in the current meta of players not scouting that much. So depending on who you're playing, if you're playing against someone like Sue's first scout will be like 4 minutes. He'll try to run a speedlingen. He doesn't even know if you have an expansion till that point, because him and a lot of other Zergs, all their overlords do is hunt for proxy barracks and try to avoid getting killed by Marines. So they really take these very far around the edge paths. They don't really see what's going on. And it's because Terran was playing within a kind of very small set of builds. There wasn't a lot of variability. Zergs are like, hey, I don't even need to scout what you're doing till a bit later. Like, this is totally fine. But if you can kind of get away with the 2-1-1 opening and then catch your opponent a little bit off guard, or at the very least not hard countering you with something like a Baneling bust as your medevacs are flying across the map, you know, those are the weaknesses of the 2-1-1. It's the fact that the opponent can, with good scouting, they can see it. You're telegraphing that build minutes ahead of time, and it's not very flexible on the defense or the offense. So for that, it only fits into taking advantage of a situation where players aren't 100% on top of their scouting.
And I feel like, given what we were talking about in this series, that is probably not going to be Unisatala Serral, who has just been going for these Overlord scouts on a lot of these games. It's not really something you can super rely on. You saying looks like TY is just going to go for that kind of 1-1-1 setup, get up that starport. Wouldn't be surprised to see another Banshee opening or something again, since, you know, all things considered, regardless of how the game ended, I feel like the Banshee harass and the Hellions like poking forward, they actually did pretty well.
Yeah, they really did. And I think you could definitely go back to that, especially if we go to another game. This one looks like it's going to be the Widowmine drop. Bunny has been a massive fan of this, as have a few others. This is one of the kind of light pressures where realistically a Widowmine and 6 Marines is not really the scariest thing for a player to deal with. But you can see he's already kind of hunting for these overlords, Serral kind of hiding them on the high ground. And, you know, you can get some Hellions in behind it. So often the way this can pay off in a big way, it's the Widowmine drops just distracting. It's being annoying and awkward to clean up. It never really lands big damage. And it's the Hellions diving into the third, maybe into the natural, that is the big potential damage dealer.
Well, the medevacs are going to be able to load up, and you were kind of mentioning the overlords and everything. There's one overlord for Serral that's making its way over to the natural. It's going to make its way in just after all of the units have left. The other overlord in the main base should have a decent idea that, hey, starport's there. I see a tech lab on the barracks, and I don't really see a tech lab or anything on the factory, or it
Serral
seems
has not
like this is
spotted
gonna...
this.
Ooh. Okay.
The medevac in the main. He has no idea. Sorry.
Yeah, there's actually gonna be a very late reaction over here. The Widowmine is not gonna be able to connect with any drones really in large numbers. Well, I say that, but actually the drones on the bottom side of the mineral patch get targeted.
And here come the Hellions. Like I said, normally the Widow Mines don't do damage, but it's the Hellion run by while you're distracted. That's where it can come from. That's massive damage. That is huge. This is, remember what I talked about earlier? This is an Overlord speed opening for Serral. I mean, he wants to catch these units. At least he does get rid of the Hellions and the Reapers. That's important. He needs to shut this down hard because he's just taken way more damage than he's ever supposed to take with this opening.
Oh, that's a terrible spot right now for Serral to be playing from. These 3 Marines also just being annoying inside the main base. The Lings are going to take a bit of time to get back over there, but then now there's Libria is going to be following this up. And it's every little bit of this harassment. Every single time TY comes in with even just a tiny bit more denied mining time, a killed drone here or there. This all forces Serral, even if he manages to defend it well, it forces Serral to get out the reactions, which means he's probably not making drones.
To be fair, though, Serral, after that initial wave of really massive damage, and I tell you, Serral is angry right now. We've all seen him angry in that booth on stage at big tournaments. He's got that expression on his face right now. There is no way he is happy about losing that many workers, but what is his championship quality? Why is Serral such a champion? Why do many people call him the greatest of all time? He gets angry after those mistakes and he ups his game. He shut down every single layer of that pressure afterwards. He hunted down the Hellions and the Reapers. He deflected the next 2 medevac drops and he killed the Liberator. All he lost in that time was 1 Queen. He was droning. He got his double upgrade started ahead of TY somehow in the middle of that. And he is droning like a madman. Serral has really managed to stabilize impressively well.
No, I completely agree with you. It's one of my favorite qualities about Serral is that it just feels like he is the ultimate combo breaker. And I feel like it's what allows him to just be so clutch. You'll see him in these situations where things just seem like they're spiraling out of control. It's a bad spot in like game 5 of an elimination match or something in a grand finals or game 7. And he just shuts it down. Whatever his opponent is doing, it just stops working all of a sudden. And he's so great at just re-seizing the momentum. Now, we do see TY starting to do his next wave of push-outs over here.
Those Hellions, the important piece of the puzzle here that's going to add a bit more complexity to it. There's no Banelings out just yet, but there is a very nice Zergling count. Serral's got to morph some Banelings and kind of wait for that, and he's got to go for a bit of a surround here.
Yeah, he can't let these units get any further forward because the Banelings are still morphing in, but he's managed to kill off a lot of the Marines. The Hellbats are barely surviving. 2 Hellbats remain. Vikings gonna finally go down to the last, but the Hellbats does end up dying. The Banelings not even being utilized, but man, they did those Hellbats and Lings, or sorry, Hellbats and Marines killed a lot of Zerglings right there.
Yeah, Serral was like, hey, I've got more than enough for this fight. Just give me 15 seconds to make some Banelings, please. And TY was like, no way. He got straight in there, forced the trade at a little bit of an awkward time. Nonetheless, though, you know, no workers lost, no queens lost. And TY, I mean, he maintains a little bit of momentum here. But I think overall, it's neck and neck. It's still not the biggest economies. This is not one of those games where the Zerg is at 80 drones, where the Terran has that 4th command center down super fast. Both players are kind of locked into what is essentially a 3-base economy for at least a few more minutes here. And once again, 2-2 starts perfectly on time for Serral. He queues up a Baneling drop. 2-2 has not started for TY. Those upgrades have really been something he keeps forgetting in this series. He's got to remember to start that 2-2.
Yeah, well, Overlord's going to be coming on in, so he might also have a bit of an economic deficit if he doesn't realize those Banelings are coming in with the Overlord, as he hasn't caught any wind of it just yet. He's actually starting to unseat some of his siege tanks. He's gathering up his forces and getting ready to move out. That means he's going to have even fewer units that are out on the map, but also his attention is going to be on his army. His attention is going to be on his army moving around the map, dealing with an Overlord or a Ling that he encounters. Is he going to be paying attention to his main base? He barely pulls back in the nick of time, and the Overlord is not going to be able to drop all those Banelings.
Nice play by Serral, though. Pulls it back, saves it for a rainy day. This drop being very annoying. Serral actually pulled his other squad out of position, so it is able to redrop on that side and redrop on the high ground at the same time. He's pushing around the right, and he's going to take a very nice high ground. Wow, big Banelings.
Oh my god, I love the extra little bit of micro there, dropping on 2 Banelings to, you know, one-shot those workers. moving the Overlord to the other big clump and then dropping them again. Just actually getting the maximum value from that. Now he's going to be able to move in and push this Marine Force back. Got the Hydras in over here to also snipe off those siege tanks. Marines getting forced to pick up in the medevac and escape on out of there. There's even an active creep doer still alive over there. A great pickoff over there for Serral.
Double Liberator in place of 2-2. TY is going for full-on aggression here, but he needs to do damage. He literally spent the only gas that he has. He's playing a very mineral-focused style, very low gas geysers to do this. I don't think 6 drones is enough. It looks nice. This looks annoying. He's wasting mining time. But with how much TY has given up to do this, I'm not sure if this is enough. That being said, he is getting very annoying. He's just not stopping.
Well, here comes that big moment you were talking about, though, Pig. 2-2 is now finishing up. So 2 empty medevacs. Maybe they were supposed to be loaded up. Maybe they were just there as a bit of a missed rally. But this is that point where the aggression is finally halted. Serral has a solid upgrade lead, a very large upgrade lead, and even an infestation pit on the way. He's going to be able to get his hive started up. I mean, there's a very real possibility that Serral could start thinking about getting 3-3 before 2-2's done.
If we take a glance at the gases in TY's main, he has not put his workers back on gas correctly. And this is something which is really hurting him. He finally does fix that up. That was for quite a while it's been that way. So TY here has done an odd staggered gas style. Now he starts +2 attack. But similar to his game on Everdream, I am looking at the way TY is playing. There are some great tactical maneuvers. That is what makes him an incredible player. But those upgrades are something which now I think force him to play a much slower game. Now, he got rolled by Hydraling Bane from this sort of situation on Everdream. Is he going to add siege tanks? Is he going to have a better Widow Mine setup? Will there be some Warlocks? How is TY going to stop that happening again? He's going up crazy command center counts, but he's got to make sure he doesn't just get overwhelmed by the Hydra Zergling Baneling.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what Serral's got, and he's flooding on out. This location is going to be pretty difficult to also defend on this right-hand side of the map. Bailey's rolling on in. They take care of the supply depot wall. Going to be able to take out the bug at the same time. And engage on the left-hand side. TY cannot manage both of the fights at the same time. Gets obliterated over there. He tries to move in with the medevac drop, but the medevac with all the Marines gets sniped off there. Oh, man. Serral is just picking up win after win after win.
This is really rough for TY. He's trying to get up to those command centers, and if he had another couple of minutes for the upgrades to tie up, for those command centers to finish, to start building some more static, some extra planetaries for safety, he could absolutely play a big mega late game, something which TY I think would have a good plan for. But right now, he's down in army supply, he's down in upgrades, and that hive is kicked in. Adrenal Glands is on the way. Serral on 90 workers. He's got creep covering about 50% of the map, and he's branching out. You can see these squads of Serral. He has now got dominant map vision, and he's setting up to start attacking from multiple sides in the next few minutes.
And that is the tough part over here for TY, is that he has to defend on these two opposite angles. And when you split up your army, that just means that even if you end up safely defending on one side, the other side's going to be underwhelmed because he just has fewer units right now than Serral. He has fewer defenses. His command center's actually going to get the scout out on this army on the left-hand side. Serral's going to start pulling back, and he actually does pull back the bottom right-hand side as well. I really thought that might be an opportunity for him to move in over there, but looks like he wants to pull all of his forces together and make something happen.
Good dancing here by Serral, just sending in small numbers of units to set off the Widow Mines. Being very annoying. Those upgrades continuing to work. The worker count looking so impressive. No sign of casters, no Vipers, no Ultras. It's just a mass of Hydra Zergling Baneling, and I think that's honestly all you need. Coming in from two sides, just crashing through that planetary is toast.
Everything is just disappearing over here. TY's economy is going to be in shambles after losing that command center. Might have another command center over here that's going to land and try and take the place of that planetary, but this was supposed to be another extra base there for TY. He was already trying to move that over. You got the burrowed banelings, Hydras and the Lings trying to bait him forward. Is TY going to take the bait? He's so close to it.
Yeah, Serral's like, please walk over here, mate. Come on. He unbuffers them. He says, all right, I'm getting too eager. I know I've got the units. And just like that, Serral